What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode 31. I'm sorry, 32 of State of the Wizards. I'm your host, K. Jose, and this evening we have a special guest. Tell us who you are, my brother.
Hey man, it's Troy Haliburton, a Wizards fan first and foremost, a Wizards journalist, been a credential reporter covering the team since the 2014 season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty well invested with my time and resources into the Wizards. So it's always a pleasure to come on any platform and talk some Wizards basketball.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you on here, brother. It's been a long overdue. Definitely wanted to do this. So, as you know, my partner, he's not on here, but you and I were going to go ahead and keep this show going on. So, if this is your first time coming on here, welcome. Follow us on State of the Wiz on Twitter. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow me at DC Hoopla on IG. Twitter, follow my main man DCan at Wizards Mafia on IG and Twitter. And like, share, and subscribe. So let's go ahead and get started. So when did your journalism career begin? How did you get involved as far as writing about the Wizards?
Well, I got involved writing with the Wizards. I just cold emailed the site runner for back in the day. ESPN used to have these ESPN True Hoop sites
Okay.
for basically for each respective NBA team. And
Okay.
so the Wizards ESPN True Hoop site was called Truth About It, and the site was
remember
run
that.
by a guy named Kyle Weedi. So one day I went online, I found Kyle Weedi's email, and I cold emailed him. Just gave him some writing samples, told him that I was interested in blogging. I had done like some light blogging for myself, but I cold emailed him out of the blue, and it just so happened that we shared the same high school alma mater, Gonzaga College High School.
Oh, okay.
I talked about that in the email, and he said, "Oh, you went to Gonzaga?" He's like, "Oh, bet." And then he kind of just brought me on, and from there, I just learned from. I mean, truth about it at the time. I mean, they had like 6 or 7 of like some of the best basketball bloggers that you'll ever find, like
Right.
Kyle Weedi, John Converse Townsend, my guy Rashad Mobley,
I remember
Connor
him.
Dents. I'm talking about. I mean, these are real heavy hitters when it comes to writing, and
Right.
so I used to get on the WordPress dashboard, and I used to put things in there, and I'd get it back, and it's like you getting back a paper from your teacher. It's got all red marks on it. It's got it really threw me through the ringer as far as just teaching me how to write, teaching me how to tell stories, and so I'm forever grateful for my Truth About It days and the experience that I gained and learned from all of those guys as far as writing and editing.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you got one heck of a resume. I do remember Truth About It. And Rashard Mobley, I do remember him. He used to be on Twitter as well. So some of the names that you mentioned, I do remember seeing those guys a while back.
Yeah, all those guys are super OGs in the basketball blogging game. They're all grown men with families and stuff right now, and honestly, the way that the Wizards have been playing over the last decade, I mean, the Wizards probably beat those guys into the ground as far as wanting to cover the sport. Right? I mean, we're going to be completely honest about it. Like the team, like beat them to the ground. Like, and you're saying like, and like I said, those guys all have families and things of that nature now. So like I completely understand and respect that. But hey, as long as I'm still writing, truth about it will live on.
Definitely, I understand. That's kind of like me and my partner, DK. We've been talking Wizards Hoops since 2005. We pretty much talk about what they do on the court, what they do off the court. So I actually value your writing because you're probably one of the only few media people that talk about the things that the rest of the media people do not want to talk about. So there's going to be a couple of things I'm going to ask you pertaining to some of the stuff you write. But let's talk about this basketball team, man. I mean, I mean, they're playing some horrible basketball. I already know that Tommy Shepard has his answers lined up for the exit interview where he's going to use COVID, he's going to use injuries, he's going to use, probably the dog ate the damn plays. He's going to use whatever he can as far as excuses. What do you have to say about this team? Like, what is their issue? What needs to be done to rectify their problems?
Well, that's funny. You said that the dog ate my plays. That's a good one. Yeah, no, when it comes to excuses, man, the Wizards, they got them all. So like, like they might pull out, new excuses we never heard of for the end of the season. And really, so if we want to start with what the problem is or why they're playing so bad or what can be done to fix the problem, I
Uh-huh.
mean, I think at this point, we got to start looking at nuclear options. Like you got to wipe everything clean. I mean,
Right,
everything.
right.
Like and so it's like when I watch Wizards games right now, it's I was actually talking to one of my friends who's he works in the NBA. I won't be revealing where he's at. That's one of my trusted
Understood.
team sources, NBA league sources.
And
But
understood.
yeah, but he said he brought up a point to me. He's like, I can't tell whether Tommy bought bad groceries or Wes doesn't know how to cook. Like basically, an analogy. It's like it's so bad that you can't tell really whose fault it is. So it's almost like everybody got to go. Like because
Hmm.
like really when you look at what Tommy Shepard has done and his tenure as the Wizards, he started out as the interim GM after they fired Ernie Grunfeld, and
Hmm.
that's a whole other thing like to talk about and begin with. Like if you look at some of the pitfalls of the Ernie Grunfeld era, then why would it make sense to just turn over to his number two guy and run things the exact same way? Like I
Agreed.
think that Tommy Shepard did a good job of stabilizing a sinking ship at the time when after Ernie Grunfeld was fired. And when you look at the moves that he's made some good trades along the margins and brought in some decent players. But building in the modern NBA, it all starts with drafting. And if you don't
Yes.
draft well, you can never really build and dig yourself out of the hole that you're in. And when you look at the Wizards hit the draft record under Tommy Shepard, they've had 4 first-round picks, and really none of them is in line to even sign an extension after their rookie deals. Like none
Wow.
of the we're not beating down the door. None of them is going to be getting early contract extension talks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they bring some of these guys back, but on a lower or cheaper deals. But the whole purpose of the draft is to be able to get good talent and keep them at a cost-effective rate. And
Mhm.
so whether I'm not calling these Wizard draft picks busts because I think that some of these players have potential. They
Right.
just haven't reached their potential in their tenure on their rookie deals as Wizards. And so when you look at it from an economic standpoint, those are losses. Like these guys
Mhm.
aren't contributing at the rate in which they need to that can help this team win right now.
Okay, I agree. So it's interesting that you said some of these guys probably won't get even, early extensions. That's very interesting. So take a guy like Rui. He's been the last few years, he's been injured. He's up for a contract extension, but he's a restricted free agent. Um, do you think that if a contract offer sheet is given to Rui from, I'll just use San Antonio. Let's say San Antonio offers Rui 4-year deal, $90 million. Do you think the Wizards will match that?
I don't think they can. They don't have enough.
Really?
I don't think they can. When you look at when it depends on. I mean, there's a lot of factors and that goes into this. It's like, do they plan on? Does Chris Porzingis pick up his player option? He's got a player option for like $31 million next year. You got
Right.
Cal Kuzma, who's a free agent. Now, if they want to go that route where they want to sign Kuzma, there's almost no way that you can sign Kuzma and bring back Hashimura at that number that you just said, 4 years, 90. Like I think that, and honestly, I don't think that Rui's going to be getting any contract offers for that type of money. I would expect
Right.
him to be getting somewhere closer to about the 4 years, $60 million range than that $90 million number. And now at that 4 years, $60 million, I think that that's something that they would have to consider. and bringing him back. But for 90, what did they say in Japan? Sayonara. Like,
I hear
yeah,
you. So even with Kuzma, let's just talk about him for a minute. So you have a report coming out that, and this was from Shams, where he said that Kuzma will probably be getting anywhere between 20 to 25 million from the Wizards. Then you had another report coming out saying that Kuzma has pretty much said that he's going to opt out of his deal and he's going to test the market. In so many words, he doesn't want to resign. Then Kuzma kind of changed it a little bit to try to clean that up. What is Kuzma's actual future for the Wizards? I mean, because in my opinion, I've already said it. They need to sell him high. Go ahead and get what you
yeah.
can for him. What do you think?
I'm with you. I think I like Kuzma as a player, and I think that right now Kuzma is in self-preservation mode. This is NBA Darwinism at work. He's looking out for Kuzma,
Yeah,
and he's trying to make sure that he gets the biggest, best possible deal that he can. And at
right,
that rate, he might price himself out of being a good option for the Wizards because for say like Kuzma is a great third player, and it would make sense for teams that have championship aspirations to pay a guy $25 million a year, to be a good third player. It doesn't make any sense for the Wizards, who have the sixth worst record in the NBA, to be paying their third best player $25 million. It doesn't make it just doesn't compute for a team that bad to be
right.
expending that amount of money. So when I look at I think that a lot of people took what he said out of context. Shout out to Ava Wallace from the Washington Post, who was able to get that information out of him. Like all he laid out was business logistics. Like
Right.
that, I'm opting out of my contract and I'm not re-signing the contract extension because it's capped at like 4 years, $70 million. Like, so obviously he's not going to re-sign. He's not going to sign an extension that caps how much he can make. And he has a team option or a player option for like $14 million that there's no way in the world that he's going to pick up. So all he did was lay out the business logistics. It has nothing to do with whether he wants to be in Washington or not. But by him laying that out, Tommy Shepard then has the opportunity to go and say, okay, Kuzma, if we can, try to negotiate with him and see about a number that they can, both agree upon. And if they can't reach that number, then they got to trade him. It's that simple. Like, it's not even that complicated. Like,
Right.
either you can reach a number that you feel comfortable re-signing him, or he's got to be on the trade block when it comes to this trade deadline.
I agree. So I definitely think and again, I'm gonna say sell him high. At this point, like you said, he may price himself out. I think he's definitely looking at an opportunity where he wants to win. So if that's the case, and I don't see him actually doing it here, why overpay him just because? And the Wizards organization is known to just do that. We already saw them do that with Bankroll, aka Bradley Beal, where they just outbidded themselves for him, and then for Bill to come out, I'm gonna call him Bankroll. For Bankroll to come out and say, there was no market out there for me where I could win, which translation is there was no other team that was going to pay me the amount of money that the Wizards are going to pay me. So that goes to Porzingis. I believe he's going to opt out of his deal because, of course, he's going to look at, hey, I can get paid a little bit more money. Should he be in the same boat as Kuzma, where he should test the market, or do you think he most likely will stay in Washington for less money?
I think Kuzma. I think Porzingis actually is going to opt into his deal.
Okay.
I think he'll opt in because that's a good number for him. That $30 million a year is a great number for him. And I'm talking about from his perspective, it's a lot of money for him. And
Okay.
I just don't think that the free agency market will be as kind to him this summer, as
Interesting.
far as him being able to sign like multi-year deal worth that amount of money. I think that he'd be probably best bet is to bet on himself, opt into that deal, come back and try to prove that he can play like this for 2 years in a row. Then he might, if he can do that, if he can continue to stay healthy this year, keep playing how he's playing, opt into that deal, go through next season and show that that he's not an injury prone guy and that he can play on the court at a high level consistently. Then I think that he will put himself in a much better position next summer to sign a longer term extension. But for right now, I wouldn't. If I were his agent, I would not advise him to opt out of his deal.
Okay, that makes sense. I never really even thought about it that way. So moving on, Wes Unseld Jr. He's been catching a lot of flack during this losing streak. Everybody is calling for him to be fired. Do you think he's in the hot seat at this point?
He's definitely not in anybody's hot seat. Like if
That's
you
what I
if
was
you know
thinking.
anything about the Wizards and how they operate, Taylor Leonsis and how he operates. Like, there's no way his bus hangs in the foyer upstairs in Capital One Arena. There's no way he's gonna fire him his second year on the job. Like, that's not happening. So I mean, people who are on Twitter, like, stop wasting your characters, stop wasting your tweets. Like, it's not gonna happen. So and the thing is, like, honestly, I don't even know if it should happen. Like I said, we don't know if he's a bad coach or not. Now, I think that last year there were some things that I was very much disappointed by out of him, his ability to adjust on the fly, to make in-game adjustments. Some of his lineup and rotation decisions, I think, are questionable. But again, like I can't tell if he's a good or bad coach or not because honestly, some of the players and that he's been, dealt with having to coach, like it just isn't good right now. So like I said, I'm not totally blaming him. If this was, a blame pie, I feel like everybody deserves, a slice or two.
I agree. I'm the same way. One of the concerns I had with Wes Unseld Jr. when he was hired was, will he be able to handle some of the egos that's on this team? And so far, I don't think he does a very good job of handling the egos. I don't know what the idea was when he was hired. If the idea was for him to coach a young team, but he inherited some young players along with some veteran pieces. And the win now is just forced on, like, this is what direction we're trying to go in. So we saw what happened last season. This season, um, it's a little bit of the same, but not as much. So I'm with you when you say, hey, everybody deserves a slice of the blame game. Absolutely. I think if you fire Wes Unseld Jr., you still got an issue because you still got the general manager. You still have $251 million going to one guy, and the organization is still pushing to win now. So then you just bring in another coach to continue the same bullshit that the organization is pushing. So I don't believe that Wes is the whole problem. He is part of it, but it's enough blame to go around.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with that. I think that there's just not enough information out there to be able to make the determination of whether he's a good or bad coach yet. Um, I think that when you look at some of the objectives and the job duties of being an NBA basketball coach, one of the, yes, you got to be a master of the X's and O's and things of that nature. But I think one of the biggest parts of being an NBA coach is being able to manage personalities. And
Right.
so I think that, I've said this before many times, like last season, I thought that the Wizards did him a disservice to, give him his first time being a head coach in the NBA. They did him a disservice by not putting a veteran coach on his staff. Like, and so it's like for him to be not like it's difficult for him to try to manage all these personalities. And yes, he's been in the NBA and around the NBA for decades, and he has a lot of experience. But there's just something to like being able to lead a group of men, being able to talk to people, being able to read the room, and things of that nature. That I think that having a veteran coach who had head coaching experience on the staff would have been able to help him and lead him through some of that. Because whereas I think that he's probably tried to be a lot more hands off when it comes to some of those aspects, as far as trying to lead and control the locker room. I think that with this team, I think that they very much need somebody who is hands on and is
Right.
able to lead and direct them in a way that is positive. And I think that's been one of my main criticisms of Bill over the years is that yes, okay, like let's say even if you look by the numbers and he averaged 30 points a game and this year he's shooting close to 50, 40, 90, and let's just say that by the numbers on the court that he is a max contract player.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than being a max contract player than just being able to put the ball in the basket. Like, and I think that Bradley Beal has shown over the course since John Wall has left that he's not a great leader. Like he's not like he isn't that superstar guy. Like I can tell you this. Like there'll be certain games where the Wizards will lose and Brad will have like a bad game, or he'll have one of those games where he'll dribble the ball off his foot at the end of the game. And it's like, I'll be sitting there and I'm like, yo, I know he's not going to talk to the media after this. Like, I know he's going to cut out the back and bounce and not answer questions about what happened. And to me, all of that is like forms of leadership. And it's like Brad is always like into the game of, pointing the finger at everybody else and always, blaming, the teammates and saying he don't have enough. But it's never, oh, it's my fault. I messed up. Let me do better. And so I think that when you have your star player who's not a great leader, and you have a head coach who has been really kind of passive with his leadership style, I think that's where you lead with, other guys in the locker room feeling like empowered to speak up.
Yeah.
Where you got guys like Montrezl Harrell and Spencer Dinwiddie in the locker room, you know what I'm saying? They're telling the other guys what to do.
Right.
And and some people didn't like that. And that's why those people are no longer here.
Right. I agree. I thought those two guys, especially then when they got a dealt a bad hand being a Wizard. And, a lot of Wizards fans, especially on Wizards Twitter, they can't stand Dinwiddie. And I don't even know if they even know why they can't stand him.
They can't stand because every time that he's been asked about his time with the Wizards, he has held no cut cards and pretty much put it out there that, there was lots of beef going on within the team. And also, man, like I'll say this. Last year when Dallas first came back to DC and they played, man, the type of taunting and heckling that came from Wizards players, Wizards coaches, like it was like something that you really don't normally see. Like,
wow.
So like there's not no fake beef, it's real beef. So like when people got beef, like of course if he's asked about it, he gonna be like, F them.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Know what I'm saying? Like, so people are confused as to why he's mad. It's like there's no confusion. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that like they left on, unceremonious terms. And if he has no reason to, shield them from criticism, protect them. No, he let it all go.
Right. I agree. So in your article that you had did recently, which was very good, by the way, you mentioned, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase what you said, was that Ted Leonsis planted flags in two separate markets, which is Japan and, of course, Israel by drafting Rui and Denny, which myself and DCAM, we kind of talked about it, but you added a little bit more context in that. So just for the listeners, because some of them probably might say, well, what does he mean by that? Could you just kind of explain what you meant by that?
Okay, so what I meant by that is, I appreciate the kind words you just said about the article. And it's tough, like when you I don't want to be, like writing any books or anything, like, you know what I'm saying, like it's a 1,500 word article, so I don't have the requisite space to go into every single detail. But I'm glad to explain because I saw that got some very interesting feedback. What I meant by that is that the Wizards, Tommy Shepard, when he's drafting, let's say, you have two players and one player A, player B, and they both grade out the same on the court.
Right.
If they believe that they can get more out of player A from a marketing standpoint, then they're going to go with player A. Right? If player A, player B, they're the same basketball wise. If you can believe you can get more marketing out of player A, you're going to go with player A. And so the Wizards have made choices where there have been some, players that they could have drafted over Rui Hachimura, over Deni Avdija. And this is nothing against those two players, but it was definitely taken into consideration that they would have extra marketing value when he brought that to Ted Leonsis, right?
Right.
And so Ted Leonsis, being the very shrewd businessman that he is, took advantage of that and put in resources from Monumental Sports into investing in Wizards Japan, Wizards Israel. Rui Hachimura, they have a guy, he's a great guy, Zach Yukuma. He came over from Japan and he covers the Wizards for Monumental Sports. And he essentially, his job is to follow Rui around and write stories about Rui.
Right.
And so they are committing a lot of resources to covering and planting flags in Japan and Israel, so that it's a future investment. 20 years from now, there's going to be kids in Japan rocking Wizards jerseys, and you ain't gonna know why. Like it's gonna because of Rui Hashimura. And so when you look at the resources that they put in, like there's no Wizards Latvia account. Like there's no when Isak Bonga was here, there was no Wizards Congo account. Like
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're specifically drawing out where they see that they can hit markets that are profitable for the team. And so they're investing so much into, making sure that their international fans are happy and that their international fans are getting the best content, while the in-game experience for people who actually go to Capital One Arena and watch Wizards games, the people who actually live in the DMV, their investment really isn't there. Like their fan experience seems to be gradually getting worse, while the team is growing in different international markets. That was really like the point that I was trying to get across, is the fact that the Ted Leonsis, they have invested a lot into Wizards Japan and Wizards Israel and a lot of resources. And so there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like at the same time, like make sure that you're also investing in the people in the community and what you actually serve.
Wow. Yeah, that's that's very interesting that you say that. So it makes me think about right now. The Wizards are currently 11-19. I know we're getting ready to play against the Lakers at this moment. Somehow, some way, I got a feeling we're going to somehow manage to pull a win out of that game. But Victor Wembanyama, there's a lot of teams that are eyeing Victor right now. And I remember reading an article, I want to say a couple of months ago, where it said any team that drafts him, I think he's going to bring in like an additional $300 million to that said franchise. And I know you probably might have saw the highlight when he hit the three-pointer off the one leg. And I remember I saw Ted Leonsis tweeted, wow, by seeing that. So one thing that myself and D can talk about a lot when it comes down to Ted, and he actually said this some years ago, is that, Ted's focus has been getting out of the red. And when you said him being a shrewd businessman, which is very true, I've always said he's kind of learned a lot of the tricks of the trade from Dan Snyder, where you can kind of still make a profit off of a mediocre to bad product. So now that you got two international players, then you got this other one, this phenom coming in. Do you think Ted is thinking about, maybe I need to get my hands on this Victor Wembanyama? Of course, you got to win the number one draft pick to get him. But do you think that's something that he's probably looking at and saying, if we can get this kid, here's another international player that I can plant a flag in and make some additional international money?
I don't think Ted is thinking that at all. I think that Ted.
Oh wow.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't. No, like it's just he's thinking about trying to make the playoffs. That's what he's trying to figure out how they can make the playoffs so he can get 2 playoff gates at Capital One Arena. That's all he's thinking about right now. And okay. Like if they're able to get Victor Wembanyama, then yes, he'll shift and pivot all of his resources to that. But I'm telling you right now, he's looking at Tommy and he's probably Tommy, what do we need to do so that we can make the playoffs? He's not looking at, we're falling down the standings and getting higher chances to get Wembanyama. He's looking at, man, yeah, we only 3 games out of the play-in. Like that's how Ted is viewing this. And the thing is, as the team, if they want to get Victor Wembanyama, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to change anything. Just keep doing what they're doing. They're gonna be right there at the bottom. Right. Like they don't have to do anything special to tank or do anything. Like they don't have to, trade players, sit players. They don't got to do anything. Just keep doing what they're doing. They'll be right there in the mix.
Right, I agree. So with you saying that Ted is focused on getting the play-ins, which a lot of us feel that way anyway, does that mean that some of the young guys, which a lot of Wizards Twitter wants to happen, does that mean that the young guys possibly could be trade pieces by the deadline or no?
Yeah, no, I think everybody, I think everybody's on the table, honestly, except for Brad. But I think that whatever, I think that Tommy Shepard, I think Tommy's feeling more pressure than Wes Unseld is, and I think that Tommy has every incentive to go out and do whatever it is that he has to do to try to make the playoffs. If that means trading Rui Hashimura, then at this point, then Rui, like I said, sayonara. I think that there is a lot of incentive for Tommy Shepard to go out and do everything within his power to try to help the team make the playoffs. I'm not saying his job is on the line, but it definitely helps him if they make the playoffs.
Damn. I was hoping you was gonna tell me better news than that, but you got to keep
Hey,
it
look, and
real.
the thing is, like I said, man, I'm just here. My job as a reporter and for the team is to break down the facts and just lay out like the case as to and lay out the logic and the process of thinking, having relationships with these people. Lay out their process of thinking, what they're thinking, and what will be the most logical move for them to do. And so, yeah, like Tommy Shepard's most logical move is to try to do whatever he can to try to make the playoffs.
To try to make the playoffs. So a lot of fans was upset that we didn't get Donovan Mitchell, we didn't get DeJounte Murray, we didn't try to get these guys. But they also forgot that there's protections on that 2023 pick that prevents you from mortgaging your future and trading multiple picks away. So people are saying, well, the Wizards need to figure out a way to get that pick back from the New York Knicks. But my argument is, well, why would the New York Knicks help us out to make the play-ins? Like, why would they?
The New York Knicks have no incentive to give that pick back, and they won't. Like that's just like unless like that's not happening. Like they have no incentive to do that. And so anybody who's getting on Twitter like it's a pipe dream. And like in all actuality, I mean the Wizards are going to end up giving. There's a like the way that we look at that John Wall Russell Westbrook trade is going to be greatly affected by whatever happens with that pick that ends up going up. And
Mm,
honestly, at this rate, like it's either the Wizards are going to be terrible for the next 4 years in a row and not make the playoffs and not finish in the top or finish outside the top 10 or however big the protections go up to. And I
hmm
mean that's just bad. If we do keep that pick, that means we've had 4 of the worst years that you could possibly have.
Right.
And if we do so happen to make the playoffs one of these years over the next 4 years, that pick is gone. So, I think that, that the way that we look at that John Wall Russell Westbrook trade is going to be greatly affected by, 2026. If we end up sending out the number 8 pick in the draft, like, we're going to look at that John Wall trade a lot differently.
Well, I'm already looking at it a lot differently. We in 2022. So, that if you think about it, you know, each time the team makes a trade, it's always okay. Well, John Wall turned into Russ, to Dinwiddie, Kuz, such and such, KP. Then let's say if Kuz goes somewhere else, okay, then John Wall turned into that guy. If KP decides he's gonna go somewhere, okay, but then John Wall turns into that guy. We're just gonna constantly keep saying it over and over again. But in reality, that draft pick, the protections on the draft pick really, really hurts this franchise going forward. Just as much as if they traded away all their picks, it's going to hurt them going forward. So I'm glad you said that, hey, it's a pipe dream. People should stop talking about it. You said it a couple of times about a lot of things that we see on Wizards Twitter that people just need to stop talking about.
Yeah, like because the thing is, it's like you have to be able to separate. Okay, like all right, I understand that we're all fans. I'm a fan of the team. You know what I'm saying? But you got to be able to separate. Like fandom and pipe dreams and things that you want to happen, and then you got to look at it from an operation standpoint, from the team and the business side, and what they're going to do when it comes to making business decisions. And so, like the Knicks they're just not going to do that. Like they're just not going to give them I mean, if they do, like, if I was the Knicks, I'd be like, yeah, just give me Denny. You know what I'm saying? And Denny might Denny might help the Knicks out right now, but like that's a lot to give up.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? Just to get back protections on the pick. I'd
right,
rather roll the dice and see what happens there.
right.
But yeah, it's just something that's not really going to happen. And I think that, like I said, like I mean, fans like just have to, like you just got to step outside of your fandom for a second and look at things from a business and operation standpoint.
I agree. So we're coming up on almost a minute left. And of course, I know we're going to watch the game. I ain't going to watch but so much of it. I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. So I will look at a little bit of it. But what is your predictions for tonight's game?
I think that if they have a chance, so it was actually really sad. The last game that I covered, a lot of the media members we were sitting around and we were trying to figure out will the Wizards win a game before 2023? And when you look at it, I'd say this game and the game versus Orlando on December 30th are the two best opportunities for them to win a game before the new year turns. Anthony Davis isn't playing tonight. I was at that Lakers game in Capital One Arena 2 weeks ago where Anthony Davis had 55 points and only hit 1 3. That means all of his buckets came in the paint. He dunked on everybody. I think that, they got a good shot. And I'm looking at it right now. I think Bill is supposed to be – is Bill playing tonight? I haven't checked to see that. But I think that if they had an opportunity to win on this 6-game road trip, this is the best game.
All right, welcome back. I got my man Troy Haliburton, and we're still talking Wizards hoop. So I know you was you was going on about the team, but in so many words, you're just saying that Tommy Shepard basically has to do what he needs to do to get this team to the playoffs, even if that means sacrificing some of the young guys to get it done. I know that's something that some people, Wizard Twitter, such as myself, don't like to hear, but that's kind of how the way things are, when having 2 playoff games at home is more important than really trying to put a championship caliber team out on the court.
Yeah, man. And like I said, like Ted Leonsis has always said that, the team will never tank. And, he's always said that it's important, how important it is for him, for the team to make the playoffs. So Tommy Shepard has every incentive to go in and try to do everything within his power to make the playoffs. And if that means, trading away some of these younger players, then I think that that's something that he'll definitely look into doing.
Okay. Now, speaking of a young player, Johnny Davis, the number 10 pick, a lot of us have been very down on him. There were other players that actually made more sense. You got your Jalen Williams, you got your Tari Eason. I wasn't really too high on Tari Eason, but I've kind of, since I've seen some of the stuff he's been doing, I said, okay, maybe I was wrong. Ochai Agbaji was a player that I wanted us to pick up. Make it make sense of why Johnny Davis was the pick for the Wizards.
Well, I think the Wizards got locked in on a player type, and they wanted a defensive first guard who they think could, help stop the point of attack. Because the Wizards have been getting drugged, like when it comes to getting beat off the dribble for like the last 2 seasons. So I think that they just really got into their mindset that they wanted a certain player type. And I think that, they really wanted Dyson Daniels. And as we got closer to the draft, once they realized that they weren't going to be able to get Dyson Daniels, I think that they kind of settled on Johnny Davis. And they settled so much so on Davis that, it prevented them from, really kind of taking that pick. They could have picked other players. But, I mean, it's also out there. That they could have traded that pick for Malcolm Brogdon. And, right. I think when you start to look at, team building, it's like, all right, if you want to go make the playoffs, then go out and get a guy who's going to actually help you make the playoffs. And
right.
I think that was a big mistake by not going out and getting Brogdon. And, obviously, it wouldn't have been that bad of a mistake if Johnny Davis if that pick was actually able to contribute this year. But when you look at, Johnny Davis, like, he's not even starting on the Capital City Go-Go. He's not even starting in the G League.
Right.
And so this is this is really bad as far as, earlier how I talked about, the best way to team build is through the draft. And that's because you're able to get cheap labor from these draft picks because their contract salaries are, maxed out. Like, we have a contract salary slot where we're getting zero contribution from him from his first year. So that's already right. You only got control of him for what, 4 years. Right. And we got 1 year where we're not getting anything out of him.
Right.
And so, I just look at it like from a perspective of, the Wizards are trying to operate on 2 different timelines where they're trying to develop younger guys and they're also trying to compete. And it just isn't working out the way that they thought.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with Johnny Davis, there was a report or a rumor out there that Wes Unseld fell in love with him because he knew how to draw up a play. And it really wasn't even about skill. I know some people who were on Wizards Twitter that was kind of high on him. They said he had that dog in him, as far as Johnny Davis. but he didn't really show me anything in the summer league. And just to hear that he's not even starting on the Capital City Go-Go tells a lot. So he's a project that looks like he may not be ready to contribute maybe 3 to 5 years from now. And who's to say that he will even get an extension to finally show what he is worth?
Yeah, I mean, by the time Johnny Davis turns into an NBA player, like he might be on his third NBA team. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just how this goes sometimes. Like I don't think that he's ready to contribute this season for sure.
Right.
And obviously, we'll see, how things shake out, and maybe a good NBA season, and maybe a good summer league. He'll be able to develop and maybe contribute next year.
Right.
But this team doesn't have the luxury of adding draft picks who aren't contributing at all. They just simply do not have the luxury.
I agree. So one last question, and we'll end the episode. Bankroll. How long will we have to wait before this guy decides that he wants to ask for a trade? Because the Wizards can't trade him. He has to ask out. I think he's eligible to be traded as of the 15th of January, or was it the 15th of this month? I thought I read somewhere it was the 15th of January.
It's December 15th. December 15th is the day that players who signed over the summer are now eligible to be traded. So that means that 90% of the league is now eligible to be traded.
They're not okay. So do you see a possibility of this guy asking out? Maybe not this year, but anywhere down the line. Do you see a possibility when he decides he'll ask out? Because as you can see on Wizards Twitter, a lot of fans have soured on him. I've soured on him some years ago, but you're seeing a lot of fans that's really soured on him so far this year.
I don't think it's a possibility. I think that the better word would be inevitability. It's inevitable that he's going. Like this is I saw this coming a mile away when he signed that fake contract extension 3 years ago. and where's his Twitter guy? I saw this coming a mile away.
Right.
That he signed that fake extension, set him up for the 10-year mark, which would make him a vested NBA veteran, would allow him to. He didn't need the All NBA anymore, even though he still made All NBA. But he didn't need the All NBA anymore to get that $250 million.
Yeah.
And the plan was always, he and Mark Bartelstein, they put the plan together 3 years ago. They get him to the free agency last summer, sign that deal, and now he has the ability to control where it is that he wants to go. It's inevitable. He's going to ask out. Like this has been the plan. So I mean, I'm not gonna say it's been the plan, but it's been. Look, that is option B for him, and there's only a certain amount of time before he and his agents sit down and start hitting the panic button and break the glass in case of emergency to get to option B.
Man, yeah, well, that's one way of putting it. I appreciate that answer. I know the bankroll apologists ain't gonna like that answer, but I appreciate your honesty. That's the reason why you're on here. So that's gonna wrap up this episode of State of the Wizards. Troy, I really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we'll do this again and later on in the future. Maybe the next time my partner will be on it, but he'll definitely be on. Once again, it was a pleasure, man. I appreciate you coming on. You got anything to say to your fans out there?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, man. Shout out to Wizards Mafia, man. I'm sad that he couldn't be here, But yeah, man. All I would say is to follow me on Twitter at Troy Haliburton, TroyHalibur, and subscribe to my Substack, Troy.Haliburton at Substack.com. And it's a Wizards blog to be named at a later date, and I think I might be making some headway on a name. So we might be revealing something soon about that.
Okay, definitely. I'll subscribe to your other channel. And definitely, once again, everybody, subscribe to State of the Wizards. Be on the lookout for that merch. It's coming soon. This is DC Hoopla, a.k.a. K Jose. You guys have a wonderful evening.